So we now have probably the best version of the Galaxy Tab S6 Lite so far with the 2024 edition, but is it a better choice than the iPad 10, which now has a lower price? Well, let's talk about it. As far as price goes, I feel like these two tablets might be the best bang for the buck, with the S6 Lite starting at $299 versus $349 for the iPad, although I think it's $329 on Amazon, so they're pretty close in price, and they both start with 64 gigabytes of storage for the base model. Then you have the option of 128 gigabytes for the Galaxy Tab and 256 for the iPad. You can also expand the storage on the Galaxy Tab using a micro SD card. Not a lot has changed with the screen on the new Galaxy Tab. It's got a 10.4 inch 2000 by 1200 resolution versus a 10.86 inch on the iPad with 2360 by 1640 resolution. You can watch YouTube videos at upscaled 4K resolution. They're both wide vinyl 1, which is good for streaming apps like Netflix. Unfortunately, the Tab S6 Lite does have a screen bleed issue similar to my 2022 version, but maybe not quite as bad as that one. Probably going to be personal preference on aspect ratio because the iPad is a little wider or more square-like versus a rectangle or a widescreen for the Galaxy Tab. Either way, they're good for watching videos, movies, playing games, or just browsing online. When you put these next to each other, I feel like the brightness is fairly close when looking straight at them, but the iPad seems to have a little bit better viewing angles, so I would probably give the slight edge to the iPad on screen quality. Sort of interesting when it comes to the battery life because the Galaxy Tab lasted about 2.5 hours longer than the iPad in my typical battery drain test at 100% screen brightness, although the iPad does seem to be a little bit brighter, so it might be closer than you think with normal use. You can also double the times by turning the screen brightness down to about halfway, so plenty of power to get through a couple days with mixed usage. Probably one of the biggest differences between these two is going to be the performance. They both have 4 gigabytes of RAM. The Galaxy Tab has an Exynos 1280 processor versus the A14 Bionic chip in the iPad. You can sort of tell just by the Geekbench testing, the iPad is more than double in most categories, and it's not even close with GPU score. It's about 8 times as much on the iPad, but you will notice the iPad feels smoother and just loads things a little faster than the Galaxy Tab. Sort of a similar story with gaming. The Galaxy Tab does a decent job with most games, but the iPad is going to run most games at higher graphics and higher frame rates. So obviously, if you want the tablet with better performance, the iPad is going to win this one pretty easily. The newer Galaxy Tab S6 Lite launched with Android 14. Obviously, it's going to be a little different than the iPad, which is on iPadOS 17.5.1 as of this video. You'll be able to do a lot of the same things on both, but you have Samsung DeX on the S6 Lite, and you're not going to get Stage Manager on this iPad like you will on the Air. One advantage for the iPad is you've got video out, so you can connect this to an HDMI adapter to use with a TV or external monitor. Unfortunately, you don't get that with the Galaxy Tab. I like things about both Android and iPadOS, but I'm wondering why on Android you can't adjust the volume right on the screen like the iPad. Sometimes it's nice just not to have to look for buttons. One advantage for the iPad is you get the fingerprint scanner or Touch ID right on the power button, where you don't have a fingerprint scanner on the Galaxy Tab. The advantage with the S6 Lite is you have the S Pen included, where you have to pay extra for the Apple Pencil. You also don't have to charge the S Pen, where you have to charge both the first gen Apple Pencil or the USB-C pencil. Obviously, it's going to be personal preference. Feel like the S Pen is a little bit better. Good thing is software support is going to be pretty good on both. Even though the iPad is going on 2 years old now, you'll probably get at least 3 more years of software support, so that's not really an issue there. One advantage with the Tab S6 Lite is you do have a headphone jack. You've got one speaker on each side for both tablets. Even though the iPad is making it look like a quad speaker setup, I feel like both are actually pretty loud, and it's sort of a toss-up on which one sounds better. I feel Samsung might be a tad louder overall, but here's a quick sample of each just to give you an idea of what they sound like. far as the cameras go, you've got an 8 megapixel rear facing on the Galaxy Tab, 5 megapixel on the front. The iPad has a 12 megapixel on the back and a 12 megapixel on the front, but you can shoot up to 4K resolution on the iPad versus 1080p on the Galaxy Tab. Neither one's gonna be better than your cell phone as far as photo and video quality, but they should work fine for Zoom meetings or other video conference calls. Here's a quick sample of each just to give you an idea of what to expect. So as you can see, mostly good stuff about both tablets, so I don't feel like you can go wrong with either one. I feel like if you want to draw, take notes, that kind of stuff, it's going to be hard to beat the S Pen with Samsung, but it's really tough to beat the performance of the iPad, so it might just come down to what you're looking for. But if you like phones, tablets, and other tech, I've got a lot more stuff that I'm working on, so you'll want to keep an eye out for those upcoming videos. So if you've made it this far into the video, you may want to say thanks by subscribing, and don't forget to give a thumbs up if this video was helpful. This is Brian from Fishby Productions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.